everyone. Look, I want to congratulate Barack Obama. I see the price of oil, that is, the barrel price, has gone over $100 a barrel. So his policies are working, and they're headed even further north. So congratulations to the president. He's driving up the price of gasoline and oil, and he will, in fact, succeed in spreading the wealth that way. Not ours, but everybody else's, I guess. In our case, he's destroying wealth. But I keep reading he doesn't mean it. He's just misguided. Now, yesterday, I'm going to do this for a reason. Yesterday, I began the program, and I said this: cut 7, go. The federal bureaucracy with the waste and the mismanagement and the overlap and the bloat and $100 to $200 billion that's being pissed away. Isn't that our president? Isn't our president supposed to be overseeing the management of the federal bureaucracy? Well, how come he's never held to account for it? How come he's never responsible for it? Instead, it's as if it goes on its own. And while I'm on the subject of our great leader, Democrats on Capitol Hill are complaining that he's slow to enter the budget fight. He's slow in dealing with Libya. He's slow in dealing with oil, gas, and electricity prices, which are starting to skyrocket. He hasn't even met one-on-one with 6 of his cabinet members. May I ask, what the hell does this guy do all day? Oh, and we know he's never going to rest until we create more jobs. That we know. Now, you might say, Mark, he's done an awful lot of damage. He must be busy doing something. No, he delegates that. His aides, the bureaucracy, members of Congress, their aides, they put together these massive transforming bills, and he signs them. But the day-to-day activity of really paying attention to what's going on, Obama's not there. I would love to know what this guy does during the day. I know what he does on the weekends. He parties down and plays sports. I would love to know what he does during the week. How can you be slow to enter the budget fight? That's what the Democrats are accusing him of, when there's so much at stake for the nation. How can you see what's going on in the Middle East and be slow to respond to the Libya situation, leaving it to the Brits and the French to take the lead? How can you be slow to deal with oil and gas and electricity prices when the costs are mounting and mounting and mounting, and they have the potential to give the real death blow to this economy? And how can you be president for over 2 years and not meet with 6 of your cabinet secretaries? What the hell exactly is going on in this White House, I wonder? And then this morning, I go online, start early to do my prep. I do it right after the program, and I do it all throughout the day. Come across a fascinating column by the left-wing kook columnist Ruth Marcus. And the title of her column in the Washington Compost is Obama's Where's Waldo Presidency. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's her take. For a man who won office talking about change we can believe in, Barack Obama can be a strangely passive president. There are a startling number of occasions in which the president has been missing in action, unwilling, reluctant, or late to weigh in on the issue of the moment. He is too often more reactive than inspirational, more cautious than forceful. I said, whoa. That sounds like me. He didn't want to get mired in legislative details during the health care debate for fear of repeating the Clinton administration's prescriptive take ours or leave it approach. Doesn't want to go first on proposing entitlement reform because history teaches this is not the best route to a deal. He didn't want to say anything too tough about Libya for fear of endangering Americans trapped there. He didn't want to weigh in on the labor battle in Wisconsin because, well, it's a swing state. Yet the dots connect to form an unsettling portrait of a Where's Waldo presidency. You frequently have to squint to find the White House amid the larger landscape. She goes on. This tough assessment from someone who generally shares the president's ideological perspective may be hard to square with the conservative portrait of Obama as the rapacious perpetrator of a big government agenda. The president's being simultaneously accused of overarching ambition and gutless fight ducking. Maybe he's doing something right. Maybe, or else Obama has at times managed to do both simultaneously. Gee, that sounds like what I said. On health care, for instance, he took on a big fight without being able to articulate a clear message or being willing to set out any but the broadest policy prescriptions. Lawmakers, not to mention the public, were left guessing about what exactly the administration wanted to see in the measure and where it would draw red lines. That was no isolated case. Where, for example, is the president on the verge of a potential government shutdown? If not this week, then a few weeks from now. And she goes on. What a brilliant column. Oh, my God. So cutting edge. So deep. You know, what's interesting is this. I guess like minds, although my mind isn't anything like hers or hers like mine. She's a lib. What's interesting is this. And it's true. The written word has more lasting power than the spoken word. I know that seems odd, but it's true. I talked about this last night, right out of the box, at the top of the first hour of my program. Where is this guy? Got all these issues going on. Yes, he's transforming America by delegating, and all these big bills come to him, and but he's not actually involved in the particulars. Well, you heard it. We went down the list, and by the way, it's not the first time. Then this op-ed comes up. Column in the Washington Post. Brilliant. Oh, my God, it's so brilliant. No, it's not. It's so blasé because it was said the next day. It was written the next day. It was said the day before. Just wanted to point that out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our Justice Department, as you know, is extremely political and partisan. And our Attorney General is looking out for his people. Not all the people, his people. This is a remarkable comment, which we'll get to later. You've probably heard it played 1,000 times before, but you haven't heard me, the expert on the subject, discuss it yet. But before we do, there's a terrific post at National View Online at Bench Memos by Ed Whalen, a friend of mine. Look what he caught writing today. Listen to this. This is fascinating. He says the timing of the frivolous motion by the Proposition 8 plaintiffs, remember they're the plaintiffs pushing for same-sex marriage, despite the Proposition 8 vote by the people of California. So the pro-same-sex marriage forces. The timing of the frivolous motion by them to vacate the stay pending appeal of the case from the lower court to the circuit court also reasonably invites suspicions that the Obama administration was colluding with them. Now follow this. He says, from what I can tell, the text of Attorney General Holder's letter announcing the Obama administration's decision to abandon the defense of the Defense of Marriage Act apparently became publicly available somewhere around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time last Wednesday. The Proposition 8 plaintiffs, the pro-same-sex marriage litigants, filed their motion. They filed their motion, according to the electronic notice issued by the Ninth Circuit, at 9:56 a.m. Pacific Time or 12:56 p.m. Eastern Time. Somehow, Proposition 8 plaintiffs were able to quote from Holder's letter in their motion and include a copy of the letter as an attachment to their motion. More broadly, it is reasonable to suspect that advance notice of the Obama administration's decision helped spur the Proposition 8 plaintiffs' decision to file their motion. In other words, they're tipped off and they get a copy of Holder's letter because it's almost impossible to put all that together in 26 minutes and have it filed with the circuit court. That's his point. He says, I'm not contending there's anything in principle that's improper about the Obama administration working confidentially with its allies. But the administration continues to pretend implausibly that Obama doesn't support same-sex marriage. It therefore ought to be noteworthy if, as certainly appears to be the case, his administration was working behind the scenes to assist the same-sex marriage plaintiffs against Proposition 8. Obama does support same-sex marriage. He's a coward. He doesn't come out and say it. Instead, he directs his Justice Department to sabotage litigation in which it is supposed to be defending a statute signed by Bill Clinton and passed overwhelmingly by Republicans and Democrats in 1996. Then they work behind the scenes to tip off the litigants, the plaintiffs, challenging the same-sex marriage ban voted on by the people of California. And what do you know? In 26 minutes' time, they file their brief, frivolous, asking the circuit court to lift the stay, in other words, to allow same-sex marriages to go on while the case hasn't been heard yet by that circuit. They just happen to have a copy of the letter and the information, and they apply it to their frivolous stay request. Let me tell you how your government really works. This is going on in every damn federal agency in the government. These agencies spit out regulations after regulations, and I'm going to tell you something. They're working with their left wing every step of the way. The Environmental Protection Agency. Do you know your Environmental Protection Agency actually encourages these flat earth, no-growth, Marxist environmental groups to file lawsuits against them? It's true. They want these left-wing socialist groups to file lawsuits against the EPA. And then you know what they do many times? They come to out-of-court agreements, out-of-court settlements, to change their policies rather than to continue the litigation. In other words, we, the American people, aren't represented by anybody. It's an inside game. So Groups are encouraged to bring lawsuits all over the country involving all kinds of things that affect you, whether it's energy or property rights, and whether it's fisheries and farmers, and drilling or what have you. Same with the Interior Department. And then the lawyers for these departments, or administration, they step in. Okay, I don't think we can win this anyway, and they cut their deal. See, the Defense of Marriage Act, you want to know the truth that you're not going to hear from any other host because they didn't practice at Justice like I did? They didn't practice at Interior? Oh, you didn't know I was the number 2 lawyer at Interior for a while, Deputy Solicitor. The truth is these left-wing lawyers in the bowels of the bureaucracy are trying to make these deals all the time. What you saw in the Defense of Marriage Act was one of those deals at a heightened level on a very important issue. But this stuff's going on in the bowels endlessly. Endlessly. So the government and these left-wing groups, in many respects, are one and the same. How many times have I said the Democrat Party and the government are inextricably linked? In many respects, they're one and the same. They need each other to survive, to grow, to prosper. That's why we, conservatives, we hold up the Constitution and say, no, you can't do that. And they say, yes, they can. Who's going to stop them? Because they use the levers of government, the instrumentalities of government, to impose their will on us. More and more through administrative fiat, more and more through judicial fiat. So, yes, they're working with their buddies behind the scenes, whether it is the Defense of Marriage Act, whether it is the challenge on Prop 8, whether it is Arizona's immigration law, whether it is the health care law, whether it's the Defense of Marriage Act. They're trying to fix the litigation. That's what they're doing. It is sleazy, it's diabolical, and those are the 2 best words I have to describe this administration and the left. We'll be right back. You know, when Britney Spears was having her problems, people would make fun of her, they'd try to interview her, and I said at the time, you know what, I don't do that. She's not a politician. She's an entertainer. There's obviously something wrong. I'm not piling on. This Lindsay Lohan, same thing. I'm not piling on. I see this Charlie Sheen, obviously something's wrong. I'm not piling on. But I will say all the mainstream media, they're salivating at these interviews, at using these folks for their ratings. Now let me ask you, who's compassionate? Them or me? We'll be right back.